Airman Cave Archives! Knowing and doing are two different things.
Welcome back to Airman Cave Archives. Alright, so I thought that we would talk about a couple signs. And I've done a sign episode before, but this is a special one for me. It harkens back to a previous episode, the sad news about Toys R Us. Sad news, yes. Good news for me, yeah. So if you'll notice over here, I have a giraffe looking sign that's orange and weathered. And if you look up here and I put a picture in, you can see an exit only sign. So back whenever I first heard about Toys R Us going out of business, I reached out to the manager for the local Toys R Us and asked him, hey, can I get the sign? And he said, yeah, you're the first person, so we'll put you on a little list or whatever. So they did a little notebook and they put my name and everything down and what I was interested in. Well, I kept bugging them, once a month I would call in and stuff and I would talk to the different managers and they said, oh yeah, it's gonna be yours, you're the first one that asked for it. Then they started doing the liquidation process. And Joe out of Panama City, who was in charge of the liquidation for the regional Toys R Us's, told me that he couldn't sell me the sign because it was on the exterior of the building and that belonged to whoever owned the building. I said, well, Joe, I'm just trying to be a concerned citizen here. What if that falls down and hits me on my head? You should probably take it off the wall and put it on the inside, and that way I can give you some money for it because that is your job as a liquidator, to get money for Toys R Us. And he said, what are you, a lawyer? No, you're wasting my time. I can't sell it to you. So I started doing the research on who was doing the liquidation, the legal aspect of it, and got in touch with a law firm out of New York, and they said they'd put my name on a list, blah, blah, blah. Nothing ever happened of it. So then I found out who the local folks were that were going to be in charge potentially of the property in itself, but they said according to tax records it was actually a Toys R Us Inc. property. So I thought, okay, well, let me go back to the Toys R Us lawyers, and they said no, it's going to be handled by whoever locally buys the building. So I found out who was purchasing it, and it ended up being some folks that were going to change it into a Big Lots. So nothing ever happened. Nobody called me back. One day my wife and I were out driving around and there happened to be a couple of construction folks outside of the building. Well, pulled up and happened to ask them, and the gentleman said, you know what, stop by this weekend, and if you want it that bad, you can have it. I was like, okay. And then I'm thinking to myself, how much is this guy going to charge me? And lo and behold, I show up and this gentleman basically helps me put the Toys R Us sign in the back of my truck for nothing. So his son was getting ready to retire from the Army, and I thought it was so cool that he did this for me without asking for any money. I gave him a book from my time in Iraq and told him, hey, thanks, and tell your son, good luck in the future, and I appreciate him serving as well with the Army. So long story short, it took probably about 8 months or so to get the sign, but after lots of begging and pleading, finally the Toys R Us kid got his Toys R Us sign, and boy, am I a happy kid. So thanks again. I think it was Steve, construction guy, but also thanks for my wife for telling me to pull off to the side and talk to the gentleman. I hope you enjoyed the story about Toys R Us, and there's a place in my heart for it still. So enjoy, and we'll see you next time.
Airman Cave Archives! Knowing and doing are two different things.